Have you ever noticed your mood shift the moment a paycheck arrives, only for that sense of calm to quietly fade a few days later? Many people believe they are pursuing financial freedom when they may actually be counting down to the next payday. What often makes life feel heavy is not the amount of money coming in, but how much our sense of security depends on it. When a paycheck is delayed by even a single day, the mind can quickly fill with possibilities that were not there before. Some people continue earning more over time, yet the anxiety they expected to leave never seems to move very far. We often describe it as a money problem, even though much of it begins as an emotional relationship with money itself. At the margin, we look beyond salaries and investments to examine how money quietly shapes the way people think, feel, and live. In this video, we will explore 7 signs that suggest your life may be relying less on a monthly paycheck than it once did. From our first job, we're taught that a paycheck is the reward for effort, and over time it's easy to tie our self-worth to the number that arrives each month. Without noticing it, life can start feeling like a countdown to payday, because that's when a sense of security briefly returns. The relief that comes with a new paycheck often lasts only a few days before bills. Payments and routine expenses bring the anxiety back. After repeating long enough, the cycle feels normal, turning adult life into a series of temporary moments of relief. Rising costs are only part of the story because there's also a psychological pressure that keeps pushing the definition of enough further away. As income grows, the standard of what feels normal often grows with it, leaving little extra room to breathe. Many people call this lifestyle creep, where higher earnings quickly transform into new spending without increasing peace of mind. At some point, it's no longer the employer that dictates daily choices, but the obligations waiting to be paid before the next paycheck arrives. Many people eventually conclude that a larger paycheck must be the answer, even when the source of the problem may be somewhere else. Before looking at the 7 signs, consider one question. What if financial freedom begins when your paycheck stops controlling everyday decisions? The first sign is not a higher paycheck. It appears when a delayed salary no longer immediately triggers panic. It does not mean you want your paycheck delayed. It means daily life can still continue before the next deposit arrives. That gap may be measured in weeks or months, but even a small buffer changes how life feels day to day. As fear starts fading, financial decisions become less focused on simply making it to the end of the month. The second sign is harder to notice because it begins when comparisons gradually lose their grip on you. New cars, expensive vacations, and nicer apartments stop feeling like proof that you are falling behind. The shift looks small on the surface, yet much of modern financial pressure comes from endless comparison. Once comparison fades, money begins losing some of its ability to dictate your emotional state. Interestingly, these psychological changes often appear before any major increase in wealth shows up. But mindset changes alone do not determine what happens next, because small habits quietly influence whether that feeling lasts. The third sign is not earning more money, but no longer spending every dollar that comes in. In the past, every raise felt like permission to upgrade life, but now it often feels like extra breathing room for the future. Many people see this habit as boring because its results are difficult to notice right away. Yet these unremarkable routines are often the habits quietly changing a person's life over time. For example, part of a paycheck may move automatically into savings or investments the moment it arrives. Instead of relying on motivation every month, the process continues even during busy periods. The fourth sign appears when financial routines start feeling ordinary rather than exciting. Ironically, major decisions receive attention, while long-term stability is often built from hundreds of smaller ones. At that point, money begins functioning more like a system than a series of moment-to-moment choices. But one more change remains, and it has less to do with habits than with the way people think about time itself. The fifth sign appears when every purchase is no longer answered only by, "Can I afford this?" but by, "What future trade-off comes with buying it today?" The shift in that question looks small, yet for the first time the future begins sitting at the table during today's decisions. Many people can technically afford a purchase, but the opportunity cost of money no longer compounding often goes unnoticed. Warren Buffett once said, "Price is what you pay and value is what you get," and that idea reaches far beyond investing alone. Imagine two people receiving the same bonus, with one replacing a still functional car while the other strengthens savings and investments. After a year, the difference may be hard to notice, but after 5 or 10 years, those small decisions begin shaping very different lives. This is where many people misunderstand financial freedom, assuming it means buying anything instead of not feeling obligated to buy everything. As the urge to constantly upgrade lifestyles weakens, more room gradually opens for building assets over a longer time horizon. Interestingly, these changes are rarely visible to others, yet the decisions nobody sees often reshape a person's future. By this point, you may notice that freedom is not a finish line at all, but a journey made up of several different stages. To understand that journey, imagine a simple staircase called the freedom ladder, not a path to wealth, but a path toward a healthier relationship with money. The first step is survival, where every paycheck determines whether the next month feels secure or filled with anxiety. The second step is stability, where bills stop feeling like surprises because some breathing room has finally appeared. The third step is security, where decisions begin to revolve around the future instead of simply reaching the end of the month. The final step is freedom, where money still matters but no longer dictates mood, self-worth, or every major life choice. One former marketing manager said the happiest moment of his career was not his biggest raise, but realizing he had stopped counting days until payday. That is often what gets missed in money conversations because real freedom usually feels more like quiet calm than dramatic excitement. Most people will never jump directly to the final step, and in reality they do not need to. Every small habit we discussed represents a single step upward, and while progress may be slow, the direction remains the same. Then a more important question appears: if the goal is not simply having more money, what does financial freedom actually mean for our lives? After seeing the freedom ladder, you may notice that most people spend years chasing higher income when what they often want most is a greater sense of security. The challenge is that a larger number alone cannot purchase security because financial anxiety can rise alongside income when old habits stay the same. That is why some people remain calm on ordinary salaries while others still feel short of money despite bringing home much more each month. The difference is not always the ability to earn more money, but whether money serves life or becomes the center of it. When money becomes part of identity, spending can feel personal, but when it is only a tool, decisions often feel calmer and more practical. Modern life keeps suggesting that happiness is always one raise away, even when many people are simply searching for breathing room without constant fear. This helps explain why some people feel exhausted even as their careers advance, because higher earnings do not automatically reduce financial pressure. Financial freedom does not necessarily change how much work exists, but it can gradually change how money-related decisions are viewed. As your relationship with money changes, life can feel less like a competition and more like something shaped around your own needs. Perhaps the least discussed form of wealth is not having everything but no longer feeling controlled by everything around you. When you put all 7 signs together, they point to the same thing: becoming slightly calmer over time rather than getting rich faster. You stop panicking when a paycheck is delayed, and you stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline. You rely more on automatic systems, and the financial habits that once seemed boring begin to take up more space in your routine. Purchases start to include your future self in the conversation, making small decisions feel more significant than immediate satisfaction. You begin to recognize that people move through different stages, and that every step still carries value even before reaching financial freedom. Gradually, money stops feeling like the source of stability and starts looking more like one tool among many. A single new perspective may not create a dramatic change today, but it can quietly influence tomorrow morning's choices. Decisions repeated over long periods often carry more weight than motivation that fades after a few days. The world may continue becoming more expensive, but the way people respond to that. In the end, financial freedom is less about having more money and more about having more choices when pressure appears. If your life still feels tied to the arrival of each paycheck, you're far from alone because many people carry that same emotional weight while working hard every day. The difference is rarely who earns the most money, but who gradually creates more distance between feeling secure and payday itself. There is no need to rush toward the top rung, because a small step repeated consistently often lasts longer than a dramatic leap. If this video gave you a different perspective on money and life, we hope each episode of The Margin can remain a calm place to explore the modern financial world. If you want to keep following conversations about money psychology, living costs, investing, and everyday financial decisions, you can subscribe and join future discussions. Every week, we examine ordinary-looking numbers that quietly influence how people work, spend money, and think about the future. Now, we're curious to hear your perspective. Where do you think you are on the freedom ladder, and what challenge is making the next step difficult? Thank you for spending these minutes with The Margin, and we'll see you in the next episode as the conversation continues.